Easy. Take it easy. I got you. Take it easy.
All right, creatures of the night. My name is Alex Doriot. Thank you for clicking on this video and joining me for what I think I'm going to call, for the time being at least, Digging Up the Dead Man. A little supplement on the Talking Taker YouTube channel of me doing a little bit of unboxing to add to the Talking Taker collection. So if you are familiar with this channel and familiar with the Talking Taker podcast, you know that me and my co-host, Mr. Travis White, every week we dig up the dead man. Talking Taker, we've gone through every single match in The Undertaker's legendary, iconic career, done a podcast about it, and now we've gone even past that, going through other rare matches and other topics that we can talk about the dead man. But one thing I've talked about on the podcast for a long time is that I am doing a Talking Taker memorabilia / action figure collection. So my goal, the way that I've locked my collection down, is that I want to, I'm not trying to get every single Undertaker figure that ever was. That's Collecting Dead Man. That's a whole other podcast that you could go check out, and I encourage you to go check it out as Steven Zeman tries to collect every Undertaker piece of memorabilia ever. Mine is, I do have, plenty of Undertaker figures and memorabilia, and I love picking up cool pieces to add to that. But the main gist of my collection is not only do I want to have a good representation of every era of The Undertaker, but I want to have one of every single one of his opponents that we covered through an episode of Talking Taker. So I thought that would be a really cool collection to have. It would allow me to go through all sorts of different eras, not just of the wrestlers, but of figures themselves. And it would be a fun way to scratch that collecting itch and not be too totally overwhelming, but allow me to get some pretty fun stuff. So I've kept y'all updated on the progress on the podcast a little bit. I don't share everything that I collect on air, but I just recently got a few really cool items, and they're all mint in the box. So I thought, why not let that opportunity pass to do a little unboxing to add some content to the channel. So if it's your first time watching, thanks for watching, and I encourage you to go listen or watch. We put full videos of me and Travis's conversations of our podcast here on the YouTube channel. You can also listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcast, Stitcher. We're out on all of them. You can go check us out. First of all, as you can see, there's a collection behind me. It says not the full collection, so this is the Undertaker shelf right here, and then right behind me is sort of the 2004 to modern day guys that Undertaker would face. So again, another rule of my collection, it does not have to represent the match that superstar had with the Undertaker, but I do try to get it as close to that as possible. And if it's like an iconic match, if it's one of like the best Undertaker matches of all time, and there is a figure representation of the opponent, which for a lot of times there is, then I will try to go out of my way to try to get that particular representation. But let's see on here. Couple of things I can show you. So like Booker T. I just recently got a Booker T to add to the collection. Booker T has, I think, 3 different matches with Undertaker between singles and 4-ways and things like that. None of them are iconic. None of them are that great or that memorable. Love Booker T, especially love King Booker, but his matches with Undertaker are not like the most memorable matches. So I was cool with just getting any Booker T figure, somewhat era appropriate. I wasn't going to get like a WCW Harlem Heat Booker T. That would not have worked. But this Booker T, good enough for me. Another one, which is, and I knew that was going to happen, disaster. This John Cena figure. I got this at Five Below. Nobody cares about this. This figure was such a peg warmer. This was on the shelves forever, so much that I had to get sent to Five Below. But as you can tell, it's the WrestleMania 34 John Cena figure representing when he was sitting in the crowd as a fan. So not only is that the match he faced the Undertaker at WrestleMania, one of his only 2 pay-per-view matches with Undertaker, I was there. Me and my brother-in-law Buck, we had tickets, won tickets from a contest with Tony Schiavone, so I tell that story on an old episode of the podcast. But, we were there. We were in the crowd as fans as well as John Cena. So there's definitely way better John Cena figures out there. But to me, I had to have this one for the Talking Taker collection. It only felt right. So, stuff like that. And so with that in mind, I want to share a birthday gift from my co-host, Mr. Travis White. This is the Eaglemoss Hero Collector WWE Championship Collection 2-pack representing WrestleMania 25 with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Now, I believe Travis and I both rated this our number 2 Undertaker match of all time, and the fans rated it the number 1 Undertaker match of all time when we did our rankings back on the podcast about a year ago, actually. And, I know it may be controversial to not have this number 1. We actually ranked Shawn Michaels Undertaker Bad Blood Hell in a Cell 1997 as our favorite Undertaker match of all time, and we go into that. But of course, you can't go wrong with this. And if you ask me on a different day, I might tell you this is the best Undertaker match of all time. Nobody's going to argue with you with that. So it's so cool. These are not your traditional action figure. It's more of a figurine, more of a statue. Uh-oh. Almost did it upside down. But there you go. I had my eyes on these for a while. They've been out for a little while, maybe a year or two even. But I just think it's such a unique display piece. And obviously, I'm not playing with my figures anymore, most of the time. Don't tell my wife that. But for a display piece, for a collector's item, these are going to look amazing on the shelves behind me, I think. So you can see the Undertaker. He's on a little base, and the base actually says Undertaker on there. It's got some soft fabric, some felt on there, so it's not going to scratch up your shelves or anything. Got some nice detail on the tights, and I believe those would be the exact tights they did wear during that match. Funny thing that we mentioned, I don't think a lot of people think about with this era of Undertaker, sort of the mid to late 2000s Undertaker when he comes back and sort of in the singlet, all the singlet wear. A lot of people think, or you just assume, okay, yeah, he's just in the black Undertaker tights. He's got a logo on the side of it every time. Undertaker changes his gear so much, and that's one of the awesome things about him, is that he rarely wears these same tights for multiple, big matches. He's usually changing the color up or changing a little bit on the side piece, on the design of them. So that's a fun thing to look out at when you're going back through some of these matches. Even got his elbow pad. You see it's got a little hole in the back of it with his tattoos coming through, so that's pretty accurate for Undertaker as well. They did not do him any favors with his body. looking a little old, a little gangly in the upper body, but did put a lot of effort in the tattoos for a little small figurine, and the face is good for what it is. But man, it just looks so cool, especially on display with the Shawn Michaels. Again, it's got the tag and the logo there on the bottom, and again, just that iconic, some of the best gear Shawn Michaels had during this second run of his career. The chaps look, probably not anybody's favorite Shawn Michaels gear, but I think most people probably prefer his original gear. But dang, this was a good look on this night. He's got his tattoo, he's got his stubble, he's got like the braid in his hair in the back, or the little ponytail. Again, just great detail on these little tiny figurines, and I think if you want to have something to represent this match on your shelf, there are a ton of figures out there. This is one of the matches that has had the most figure representation of all time out there. Great one to pick up. So I appreciate my best friend Travis gifting me that. Also comes with these neat little comic books. Well, they're not comic books, actually. They're like little, kind of like a kid's book. Like, I don't know, you used to buy something like this at a book fair or something like that. They would have stuff like this for sale, which I loved getting things like that at the book fair. If they had anything wrestling, I was picking that up. But it's got a little history, little facts about The Undertaker, some things about the match, some things about WrestleMania in general. It's just a cool little added value for these figurines. So it's got one for Shawn Michaels as well. Goes through the same match, but it goes through some of Shawn Michaels' WrestleMania moments in there. just a nice little thing to have. So appreciate that. Great gift. Excited to put that in the Talking Taylor collection to represent this match. All right, up next. So if you've been listening to the show for a while, I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia. My wife and I, about 6 months ago, we moved here to Greenville, South Carolina. And I know I was shocked, but I think most people would be shocked to learn that there are no good toy stores in Atlanta. There's nothing. There's some comic book shops, but really, if you're looking for toys, you got to go to a thrift store or a vintage toys, that is, or an antique store, antique malls that had some good finds, doing some figure hunts, places like that. But other than Walmart and Target, that's it, man. On the flip side, Greenville, South Carolina, which is a decent-sized city, but it's no Atlanta, has a fantastic toy store. They're called the Toy Federation. Encourage you to check them out if you're ever in the Greenville area. It's a great overall toy store. They have a good wrestling section. It's not huge, but it's very good. They have a little bin right when you walk in the door of some loose, mostly old Jakks figures. I've picked up a couple things out of there. They're mostly, real beat up and in crappy shape, but every once in a while it's a $5 bin, so I'll always look through there and see if they have anything different in there. But on the back wall, they got I've been a few times since I've been here, and it seems like they're getting more and more wrestling stuff in, which is great for me because that's all I really collect. But they've had a lot of vintage mint-in-the-box stuff come in recently, which is really cool to see. And a ton of loose stuff, a lot of recent Mattel stuff, loose, and really decently priced. So encourage you to check them out. They've got all sorts of Star Wars, Marvel, all sorts of retro stuff as well, if that's what you're in for. But of course, I go in there looking for wrestling, and I just went in the other night for the first time in a while and picked up two things. And I'm going to do this one first because I actually don't think I'm going to unbox this. Originally, I was planning on it, but this is from about 2006, Havoc Unleashed Series 4, The Undertaker. You can see you got it for $10, which is more, I think, more than what you actually would have paid for it back in the day. These were like at Walgreens and CVS, Family Dollar, cheap wrestling figures. Nowadays, they'll sell basics and sometimes even elites at like a Walgreens. But they used to have just figures exclusively to Walgreens for, like I said, for like $3, $4, $5 for kids. That's what these are made for. These are kids building up their figure collection. Mom and dad's in there picking up groceries or medicine or something at the drugstore, and the kids like, oh, can I get Undertaker? Can I get Kurt Angle? And it's just a great addition to your fig fit. It's a great addition if you don't care. But as an adult fan, adult collector, this figure sucks. And that's why I wanted to buy it, just because it's so crappy. And I thought it was cool because it was mint in the box. But, you can see how cheap it is. There's nothing on the back. No pictures, nothing. But this is a Jakks figure that is a bone cruncher figure. You can kind of feel it in there. And you can see it when you get up close to it. And what's funny about that is this was like 5 or 6 years after they really stopped making bone crunching figures. Those were the classic figures from 97, 98. I think maybe even 96 is when the first ones came out. From that generation, so iconic, so memorable. But of course, they had moved on to Titantrons and R3s and all sorts of other different figures at that point. But they released these cheap bone cruncher figures, and it's cool because it's a bone cruncher. But as you can see there, it's got some tattoos, which is nice, but no design there on the trunks and no gloves. That's what kills me, man. The Undertaker has never wrestled a match in his entire career. You take any era Undertaker, he's always got gloves on his hand. Gray gloves, purple gloves, MMA gloves, biker gloves. Not this one. And that's what really sucks about it. So I almost think this one is just cooler to have in the package. It's because it's 15 years old. I think it looks better that way. And otherwise, it's just a crappy Undertaker figure that's going to be in the back of my shelf. But at least it looks better in the package. But had to have it. It's sitting there, mint in the box, mint on card. It's only $10. Come on, I'm gonna pick that up every time. So yeah, there you go. It's added. I wouldn't have ever gone out of my way to get this, but because I saw it there, as Collecting Dead Man says, no taker left behind. So finally, the main event. This one definitely caught my eye when I was at Toy Federation in Greenville. Mint on card from 1998. This is Jack's Kane Slammers Series 2. I've got my Kane shirt on to unbox this bad boy. This is just so cool, man. 23-year-old figure in great condition. The box is fantastic. You could easily display this if you were a mint on card person, or put it in a protector, put it up on your wall if you were a Kane guy. And I know there are some Kane guys out there, but not me. I like to have most everything loose out on the shelf. And it's funny, I for sure had this when I was a kid. Definitely had this. I believe this was the very first Kane figure that you could ever get. So Kane was so hot, such a unique, hot character. This thing was flying off the shelves, and I definitely had it. But and I keep most of my childhood collection. I have almost everything. I know a lot of people don't display their childhood stuff, but that's what I love about the sentimentality of having a collection, is that I get to have a lot of my childhood stuff, and some of it's in good condition, some of it's a little worse for wear, but that's one of my favorite things, is having childhood stuff on there. But for some reason, I can't find this guy. I can't find this guy in any of the boxes of my childhood figures, and so I have had for a while a different Kane on display, another one of my childhood ones, this Titantron figure, which I think is awesome. Kane did not wear this gear all that much, but it's sort of the inverse of his original gear. But it's a great freaking figure. I loved using this guy in my fig feds. But the issue with this one is he never really faced Undertaker in this gear, and Kane is the Undertaker's brother. He's his, like, if he's not your number one, he's got to be in your top 3. Or top 5 Undertaker opponents, characters of all time. So you got to have a more iconic Kane. I'm definitely going to keep this one in the display, just kind of move it to the back and replace it with this bad boy. I mean, honestly, I probably need at least one more Kane. I think I need a bald, unmasked, bald, but more unmasked and shirtless Kane from like 09, 010 to represent that last run with Undertaker, and WrestleMania 20 as well. Such an iconic moment. I could probably be convinced to get like a modern day Kane to represent, you know, Survivor Series 2015, or I don't really want to represent the match with DX, but I guess it could represent that as well. I'm not going to go out of my way to get one of those, because those aren't, you know, the most memorable things to me, but I do think I definitely need a 09, 010 Kane. But for now, let's do it. Let's unbox this 23-year-old, 24 years, that's 2022, so this is, 1998. This is a 24-year-old Kane with head chopper action. I don't remember Kane ever doing a head chop, but that's the action they gave him. Just before I do it, I'll show you the back of the box as well. So you got the other Slammers. I had the Taka, and I had a regular, I guess it was the Stomp Brian Pillman. I didn't have the Slammer Brian Pillman. That was the only other Slammers. Slammers, nobody really liked the Slammers. It had the unnecessary motions in there, but you got some unique guys who weren't released any of the other ways. Stomp figures, those have been talked about to death. They're ridiculous, but kind of fun. And then the WrestleMania 14 series, I for sure had this Shawn Michaels and that Triple H. Had the Headbangers, but I had them in a tag team series. And I had this weird Rocky Maivia with pants that he absolutely never wore. But I used him. I called him Flex Cavana, which was, as we know, that was Rocky Maivia's name on the Indies. So I just used him as Flex Cavana, had like a side character, gave him a new gimmick, and added him to the Fig Fed, which, I was thinking about it. That'd be something you could do with this if you were a kid. You already got an Undertaker figure, but you see this guy on the shelf for $5, you can pick him up. And since it's really a bootleg Undertaker, you can just give him a different name. Call him Mean Mark or something. And add a new guy to your fig fed if you wanted something like that as a gift. So that's kind of cool about those figures. But enough about that. Let's do it. Kane. Oh, man. Nothing like that. Nothing like peeling the plastic off the cardboard of a 24-year-old figure. So there he is, Kane in the package, that iconic gear that he wore for, I don't know, the first year and a half, first 2 years of his career. Oh man, this feels so cool. Oh man. So the Slammers were a little bit different. They had the bone crunching legs. Oh yeah, you can get that. Still got that bone crunching sound in there. Gotta love that. But they had hard plastic arms, so not the bone crunching action on the arms. Let's see if we can get the, what's it called? The head chopper. Yeah, there it goes. Boom. Guess you want to crank it up, probably. Boom. Chop him right on the head. I guess what you could really do is you could actually, we'll just do some Kane on Kane action here. You could kind of choke slam him a little bit. I'm kind of doing that. I can't really get a good shot of it. Yeah, use your imagination. But nobody really used this stuff, even on the Hasbros, at least for me at least. I never used like the real motions that they had, but you know, it was there. So yeah, there he is, Kane. A little pale, but I guess, I mean, Kane was always a little pale, you know, didn't have a huge tan or anything like that, but you see like the little outline there on that side of his pants, and then the different design on the other side. One-armed. I mean, what else can you ask for? This is a great freaking Kane figure. Represents his debut. Represents, you know, that iconic, legendary first run of his career. Needed it for the Talking Taker collection, and love that is minty, fresh, straight out of the box from 24 years ago. So, those are the new additions to the Talking Taker collection. I hope to be back and try to start doing this. Just doing some added content to the YouTube channel. I plan on doing a lot more, just putting some clips of some old stuff from the podcast, some different things on there. Who knows? If you'd love to hear more YouTube content from Talking Taker, let me know. I'll try to do some retro unboxings if I get some old stuff, and I'll do some new unboxings if I get some new stuff, if you guys like this. But go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and as we always say, take her easy.